Hello, everyone. Uh, today I snapped. I've been saying over the course of a few videos now that in my area people had been putting up stickers over the billboards declaring political allegiance, and that the stickers bore the hateful legend, "True Muslims do not vote for democracy." It should have just been enough to decry this foul statement as an undemocratic view held by some idiot in the area, and of course, with the general election having been and gone and our country being no closer to Sharia law, I thought it would be at least a week before any sort of religious community touched my personal sphere in any way apart from YouTube. Yeah, I was very, very wrong in that belief. I spent the last 2 days visiting my parents in Worcester, and when I got back to Cardiff, I got back to Cardiff about 3 o'clock today, and within half an hour, the Muslim community had severely pissed me off, and I'm not going to lie to you, frightened me quite a lot. I didn't have any milk, so I walked to my local corner shop to buy some, and when I got back to my house, milk in hand, and I was looking forward to a cup of tea, I found a man dressed in obviously Islamic clothes at my front door applying the same sticker I have had a problem with all week onto it. Yeah, I believe I was fairly within my rights when I asked him what the fuck he was doing. He replied fairly quickly with God's work, and then a fairly lengthy description of what that entailed, which, from what I could gather, involved defacing the front doors of many of the houses on my street with the same sticker. I believe I was also fairly within my rights when I told him quite loudly to fuck off, and I never wanted him to see him defacing my house, or anywhere close to my house, ever again. And I tried to go into my house, but he refused to move out of my way. He refused to move out of my way when I tried to get into my house, and he insisted on proselytizing more and more into my face. He no longer looked like a peaceful religious man who, was just being misguided and, no conception of personal property, private space, or permission. But he was just, attempting to spread the word of God. Now, he wasn't any of those things now. He was actually beginning to scare me, and it was about then that I noticed that he wasn't alone, because there were others with him, applying that hateful bit of a graffiti to the other houses on the street. So now I was faced with one obviously agitated and quite angry religious man and his friends, who, judging by the look of them, shared his agitation and his anger. He then started shoving me in the chest, and every time he did, he would shout, "Allahu Akbar," which. And though I started shoving back, I was horribly aware of his 3 friends, and I was horribly aware of the fact that there was quite a large Muslim community in my area, and I'm ashamed to say it, but I wondered whether or not this would be it. I wondered whether or not, a whole load of Muslims would pour around the corner and help beat me savagely to a pulp and then set my house on fire. I did think it. Maybe you think it's racist for thinking it, but, at that point, that is what I thought, and I was frightened. I was really frightened. But it turned out that I was very lucky. The police turned up. The police turned up instead of an angry Islamic mob. One of my next-door neighbours, who's also a tenant of my landlord, had called my landlord, and he told him that there was a disturbance at one of his properties, and my landlord accordingly called the police. Needless to say, once the police were there, the scene started calming down, and we were separated, quite physically separated, but we were separated. Doesn't mean that everything was fine. My religious friend told the officers that I had threatened them with physical violence and that I had struck one of them. Once again, cue more arguments, recrimination, and shouting. I told the truth. I pointed at the sticker on my door, and then I pointed out that there was no way that me just being one man is going to start a fight with 4 men. As it turns out, I needn't have protested my innocence quite so much. There's a CCTV camera that sits above the pub at the end of my road, and it sees the whole street, including my house. When this was pointed out to my religious friends, all of a sudden, I wasn't all that threatening or violent anymore, and that everything had been a big misunderstanding. After the 4 men and the police had dispersed, I learnt from my landlord that my religious friend preached in a mosque 2 streets down. He was seen as a pillar of the community and could be often found going from door to door spreading the word of the Prophet. And not only that, this was not the first time in the last few weeks that he'd run into the police when someone else took offence to having their front door stickered. People had tried to press charges for assault in similar circumstances, but the charges were apparently not sticking. And I knew exactly what I was doing then by saying the word "not sticking," because of the sway he held in the local community. Now, all I take that to mean is that the police are reluctant to charge him lest there be a riot in Riverside. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm frightened of him, and I'm frightened of him and his friends coming back to my house, but I'm not so frightened that I didn't fight back in my own way. On the front of my house, I've put a billboard, and I've spray painted the atheist A onto it, and underneath it bears the legends "No Gods." Because as frightened as I am, I refuse to be bullied in the street that I live in. You know, I live in the free city of Cardiff, and I live in the UK, and when last I checked, it was a Western democracy with the right to free speech enshrined by law. He had the right to proselytize, I have the right to disagree. And not only that, I have the right to disagree and expect to still not be beaten up. And though now there is a police presence in my area until the tension lifts, I will not curb my tongue nor have it curbed by others when someone tries to shove their beliefs down my throat and threatens me when I call bullshit. I am still a free man. I am free of gods and religion.